Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 21 of the Chosen One Star Wars podcast here on Game Domain. As always, I'm your host, Jason, joined by my co host, Captain.
Yeah, hello there.
All right, so 2 weeks ago, we weren't able to release a episode for last week, which wasn't too much of a big deal because there isn't really any new Star Wars news coming out right now. But
That's
for
true.
our 20th episode special, we did about an hour and a 15-minute long Battlefront 2 Let's Play for you guys. So
Mhm.
that's some good content if you guys want to go back and watch that. Yeah, we just figured, we'd have a little bit of a laid back episode and just, celebrate the 20th episode of the show by just playing some Battlefront 2. And yeah, so we gave you guys that 2 weeks ago. And so now we're going to get back into the swing of Star Wars news. So, I mean, the bottom line is that there really isn't any like eye popping Star Wars news coming out as of late. It's going to be kind of a dull summer before things, start to pick up in the fall when we get the Mandalorian season 2 and, whatever else Disney might surprise us with and throw at us, coming up this fall. But so it's going to be kind of a light summer for Star Wars news. But there's a very interesting rumor going around, and we're just going to say up front right now, it's probably not going to happen, but it's really the only major, I mean, the only real Star Wars news or hot topic or debate that's going on right now is about this idea posed by this YouTuber named Doomcock, who's, been historically, yes, he's very bad name, and he's also historically been very, very inaccurate with his predictions. He claims that, he has certain sources that just, don't actually really exist. He kind of just makes stuff up, claims he has sources within, on set of The Mandalorian that, he claimed that, on the set of The Mandalorian season 2 that Kathleen Kennedy was not allowed on set, but yet we've seen pictures of them filming, and of course she's there on set. She's the executive producer of the show and the head of Lucasfilm. They can't really, leave her out from the set. So I mean, just kind of outlandish, stupid things. But he's brought up this this idea that he claims he's heard from sources within Lucasfilm that there's kind of a rift and kind of an internal civil war going on in Lucasfilm between Jon Favreau and Kathleen Kennedy on the creative side of things. And apparently Jon Favreau, who I mean at this point seems like there's a possibility he could be next in line to take over for Kathleen Kennedy as the president of Lucasfilm when her contract ends. I believe it's next. I think it's either 2021 or 2022. I know she just renewed a 3-year contract a few years back. I don't remember if she renewed that contract in last year in 2019 or if it was the year before in 2018. But so apparently, according to this guy, there's an internal rift in Lucasfilm that basically Jon Favreau, there's creative differences, and he wants to kind of retcon the sequel trilogy. Basically just making it null and void, like, the episodes 7, 8, and 9, which are, very highly, debated. A lot of people love them. A lot of people, dislike them as a whole. There's a lot of people who hate them. And it's a it's very, very divisive trilogy and certainly gave a lot of fans bad taste for Disney and kind of what they were doing with Star Wars since they bought Lucasfilm back in 2012. That Disney, they're starting to retcon things a little bit, retcon their own mistakes a little bit with obviously The Mandalorian, such a fantastic show. They brought back the Clone Wars and gave us Clone Wars season 7, and they have some other great, Disney Plus content lined up down the way, and that seems to be where the future of Star Wars is kind of heading, is to kind of these smaller, multiple episode little Disney Plus series rather than, the big blockbuster movies, which we've always been used to. And obviously we'll still continue to get the big blockbuster Star Wars movies, with different timelines and, different new characters and new adventures and whatsoever. But, the Skywalker saga has basically been wrapped up. But I mean, according to these sources, these leaks, if you will, I mean, take it with a very, very, take it with a grain of salt. It's very, very not, it's not very plausible that it's actually going to happen, but there's really nothing else going on right now. And this is kind of the main debate in the Star Wars community right now. So we figured me and Captain would just give you guys our take on, this whole situation.
I'm
But
just uh, I'm just giving it a read through, and I gotta say, it feels like this Doomcock guy has
mhm,
invented everything. But I
yeah,
will say that it does pique my interest on the fact that there will be no more. That according
yeah,
to, if it all got reset, there would be
yeah,
no more Wonder Ray, and
yeah,
Kathleen Kennedy would be fired, and like
yes.
2020 is going shit so far. Just please, oh, some form of deity up there, Vishnu, D- uh, Odin. Zeus, whatever, give it to me, okay? Make this happen because I don't pray to a god, but one god out there. Just make it happen. Get Kathleen Kennedy fired, okay? Ruin her entire life because she is a stain on the universe right now, and just retcon. Get rid of Rey. Get rid of all that. Just make it so the Emperor, dies. I was reading some shit about the Veil. I don't care about that. Okay, that's some stuff that ties in with what's it?
Star Wars
Um,
Rebels.
Star Wars Rebels. I don't mind. Okay, that's interesting thing. But Palpatine's got a bunch of mirrors in a big vanity room that allows him to see that. Perfectly fine with that. Okay, have it that way. It's if this Doomcock guy has invented all this stuff, he is a far better writer for Disney and Star Wars than anybody who's done the past 3 movies, for crying out loud. Oh God,
Yeah, that could
please let
very
it be
well
true.
be true. But I mean, so before we kind of get into at the plausibility and whatnot, whatnot about this situation or whatever, this retconning of the Sequel Trilogy. First off, like I'm just gonna, I'll give some of my thoughts, and then Captain, you could talk a little bit about, what we think of like if we want this to happen. I mean, it's very, very unlikely, but just personally, if we want it to happen or how they could go about it. I feel like as much as I don't like the sequel trilogy as a whole, I feel like necessarily to somehow first off, I don't know how they could really get this done. I think it would be a complete disaster, and I think it would piss off more people than it would make happy. Because I mean, there's like half the fan base does not like the sequel trilogy, half the fan base loves the sequel trilogy, and then I don't necessarily think that everybody who doesn't like the sequel trilogy is gonna love and be really, really happy with this choice. Because I feel like it would kind of just make it a complete disaster and just shake things up and really just give a bad look on Disney, on Lucasfilm, and on Star Wars. Because I feel like when you have such a big media franchise like Star Wars, you make 3 big blockbuster movies to just somehow, just because some fans didn't like it, and myself included, one of those fans who didn't like it, to just erase that in a way and just completely retcon. And I don't know if they would start over from the beginning or whatever they do. I mean, getting rid of Carrie Fisher's last performance as Leia, that's obviously an option that they don't have to move forward. Obviously, you could film more with Mark Hamill and you could film more with Harrison Ford. But you can't, and Anthony Daniels, but you can't do that with Carrie Fisher, so you can't really redo the sequel trilogy without Leia. So I mean, I don't really think that it could happen. I just don't think that it could happen at all. And even though I don't like the sequel trilogy at all, really, episode 9 was my favorite episode out of the three movies. But I just really don't think that going down this path and this direction would be a good look for Lucasfilm as a whole. I think it would just because I mean, people who aren't Star Wars fans would look and say, like, wow, Star Wars must, like, the people running Star Wars and the fan base, like, they must really be up in arms so much about this trilogy that they're just going to completely, like, erase it and pretend it didn't happen. I mean, they made billions and billions of dollars off of each of these movies. I think they made upwards of 5 billions total throughout probably much more with merchandise and all that without with these 3 movies combined. I mean, I just really don't think that it's in anybody's best interest to do this. As much as I like the idea of kind of having an alternate reality as to what actually happened throughout the events of the sequel trilogy, I just don't really think that it's plausible at this point for them to actually do it. So I'm kind of on the boat of I don't think they will actually do it at all, and I don't really think they logically can do it. But I mean, there are some. It would be very difficult for them to try to pull this off, and I really don't think they could then remake the trilogy and make 3 more movies. Like I mean, like I just said, obviously they have Mark Hamill, obviously they have Harrison Ford. Harrison Ford would probably just say no to it anyway and get somebody else to play Han Solo at this point. I can't even imagine how much money they paid him just to come back to do the little 1 minute scene talking to Kylo in Episode 9. I highly doubt that he would want to come back to do this. So that they really there's really no path for them to actually do this, and on the point of like the plausibility of all this, I just think that this rumor is just probably completely made up, and there's absolutely no evidence behind it. Who knows? Maybe this guy does know a source in Lucasfilm, and maybe this source just kind of wanted to get attention or wanted to stir something up and just kind of completely made this up. I'm sure there are creative differences between Jon Favreau and Kathleen Kennedy. Like I'm sure Kathleen Kennedy made tips on The Mandalorian, and Jon Favreau's like, no, we don't want you interfering with our story or what we're building here. She's not a creative mind. She's a producer. That's her skill. Back producing with George, producing the Indiana Jones movies back with George Lucas. That's her main skill. She's not a writer. She's not a creator. Like somebody like Jon Favreau is, or somebody like George Lucas is. So that's really not her place. So I'm assuming that that's probably what
Careful.
I'm assuming that that's probably what it stemmed from. But this source or whatever, or this Doomcock guy, just completely took it to another level by just saying, oh yeah, since they have creative differences, this means that Jon Favreau wants to wreck on the whole sequel trilogy, and he's going to write and direct a whole new trilogy that just completely erases everything that happens. So I mean, I just don't think that it's logical at all. I don't think it's going to happen. I really at this point wouldn't want to see that happen. I feel like it'd just be a very, very, very bad look for the entire like for Star Wars as a whole. Um,
I don't think it'd be too bad.
I mean, well, yeah, I just gave my thoughts on it. So why don't you just give some of your thoughts on what you
Well,
think they could do with this?
if we think about it this way, instead of saying that episode 7, 8, and 9, which to me personally don't exist, so oh, hey, I'm already there. But let's say that instead of them being canon, they fall within. I think it's. I'm pretty sure it's Legends. Yeah, everything else that in the Star Wars universe that isn't 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Clone Wars is part of the Legends now, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's kind of like the Marvel offshoots, like Marvel Zombies and all that kind of stuff, which we're going to get to see further down the line.
Hmm.
That's kind of they kind of exist in Legends. They're offshoots. They're what ifs. So I guess you could say that the episode 7, 8, and 9 are what ifs, and then just
Yeah.
don't replace them with a new set. Uh, Instead of doing that, all you really have to do is either do like a little do like a little wrap up thing. Do like a 10-minute video of a wrap up of like instead of Ben becoming Kylo, instead of Luke becoming really depressed, instead of Leia like creating all this kind of stuff, and the New Republic, getting blown up. Just do like a 10 to 30 minute little video about little stories about what happened. Put them all together. Bish bash bosh. There you go. Luke's the Grand Master of the Jedi Order. Ben's his apprentice with him in the Jedi Temple. The New Republic's thriving and all that kind of bollocks. And just
Hmm.
have it that way. Just make a quick 30-minute video or something, or fuck it, make it an hour. Make it a mini movie
Make it a
because
series on Disney Plus. Who knows? I mean, I don't know.
fuck it, yeah. Call them what ifs or I don't know stuff like
Yeah.
that.
I don't
And
know.
there you go, fixed.
I mean, I just don't. I mean, I understand what you're saying. I just don't think that this is any. I don't think this is going to happen whatsoever. I just think it's very, very. I think, in my opinion, it's just out of the realm of possibility. I don't necessarily see why Disney would actually want to go through with doing this. I mean, they invested so much money, so much time, so many different
Yeah, but
creative
it
minds,
failed.
actors, and people. Yeah, but I mean, well, it didn't for them because they made billions and billions of dollars
Yeah,
off it. They may have fans that
see,
hate
that's
them,
the thing though.
but they
They
also
might have
have
made
fans that love the movies, and then it just doesn't make like I just don't see this rumor having any sort of leverage, and I don't see it making any sense for Disney to just completely retcon and say, oh yeah, these three movies in the grand scheme of things in canon, we spent billions and billions of dollars to produce them, we made even more money to make that to off of them. I just don't think that cannot see Disney just completely erasing them and pretending like they never
Oh
happened.
no, I'll see. I can see them shifting them into the realm of legends. That's probably the best way. But if you think about it, what they're trying to do, if it's real, is they're trying to appease everybody, which is something you should never do. Um, it's stupid to try and do stuff like that. But the easiest way and the most efficient way to do it is make it part of legends. That's the only way they can do it. They can't wipe them out because if they do, that'll piss off the new, dweeby little fans that think 7, 8, and 9 are the best Star Wars ever when they're not.
Hmm.
Uh, it'll appease the people who are like, 1, 2, 3 decent movies, 4, 5, 6 best movies out of the trilogy. The original fans. Okay,
Hmm.
the top notch
The real
OG
fans.
fans, the real fans, yeah, and people might have a go at me for saying the real fans, but trust me, if you're just coming into Star Wars going 7, 8, and 9 is the best Star Wars, and you haven't even touched the other Star Wars, you're not a Star Wars fan. Okay, you're a Disney fan. There's a difference. Then what if they do all this kind of legends section of it? They appease everyone because they still keep 7, 8, and 9, so all the new dweeby fans can enjoy that and the OG fans can be like, yeah, no, that's perfectly fine. We don't want them as part of the original saga, which is good because they don't technically belong in the original saga or whatever it would become now with there's nine if they kept the 9 movies. And at the same time, the original fans get to keep one, two, three, four, five, six, or just the OG fans get to keep 4, 5, and 6, and my generation gets to keep 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And it's the easiest way to do it. But personally, I think Disney failed making 7, 8, and 9 because there is nothing to it. It's all flash,
I
no
mean, yeah.
substance.
I mean, in my opinion, they failed as well. But that doesn't mean that they think they failed, and that doesn't mean that
Oh
they're
no, yeah,
actually going to
but
go through and do it this.
if
So
if Disney walked into a room, robbed everybody, and only one person went, "Oh, you've robbed us," they would think they've won, and that's basically what they
yeah.
did. Disney robbed everyone.
So I mean, yeah. I mean, I get what you're saying. I just don't necessarily. I just don't find any sort of credibility or any
No,
sort of like.
from the information I can read, it
Yeah.
does not look like it is legit.
Yeah.
But
Um.
what they should do is they should find this Doomcock guy and hire him
To be
because
a writer because he has
seriously,
some serious creative
he's got
ability.
some serious
Well,
potential as a Star Wars
yeah.
writer.
I mean, well, just the one other thing I wanted to touch on, because there's really nothing else to talk about, but it's just with the, this Doomcock guy writes about how the way that they're going to do it, which I think is actually interesting. And like you said, I mean, he seems like a pretty creative guy from in the Star Wars realms of things just by making this up. Obviously, in Rebels, in season 4 Rebels, we got the whole World Between Worlds episode arc, whatever you want to call it, and we
Yeah,
see
where
Ezra
Ezra.
kind of go in and save Ahsoka from what we presume to be her death or her disappearance. At the end of in the season 2 finale in Rebels when she's fighting Vader. After the with Maul, when Maul and Ezra were there when they were all chasing that Sith holocron. Um, the world between worlds, and that's kind of like obviously that mystical veil of the force concept that was kind of set up that Palpatine kind of controls or whatever, has power over and has access to, and through that kind of like netherworld of the force, Ezra is able to save Ahsoka from dying to Vader. So basically, what this guy is saying in his theory, or what he claims is sources from within Lucasfilm, is that how Jon Favreau would go about this is about creating another movie or some sort of piece of canon. I don't think they ever specify. I don't think this Doomcock guy ever specified what this is going like. What would be the thing to retcon these 3 movies? Not other than just saying, oh yeah, they're legends, they're deemed null and void in the realm of canon. Um, but to actually do it with more, to do it with by leaving 7, 8, and 9 canon, but then having something else that just kind of like brings us to an alternate reality. Because obviously the events of 7, 8, 9 would have happened, but then you could have somehow, in my opinion, I mean, this is just complete speculation and this is just hypothetical because, like me and Kevin said, this is not gonna, this is really not gonna happen. But just one cool way that I think that they could go about doing this is you kind of have, you could start a new trilogy or whatever. Obviously we can't really do this because no Carrie Fisher, Harrison Ford won't come
That's true.
back. I'm sure Mark Hamill would want to do it, but you can't just have Mark Hamill. You can't just have Luke. You need Leia and Han. So like we said, it's just not going to happen. But this is just kind of cool fantasizing about it or whatnot.
Mm.
You could kind of have Rey. It takes place however many years after the events of Episode 9, and somehow Rey accesses this world between worlds. Obviously, we know she has the Palpatine bloodline. Somehow she could access this netherworld of the Force, this world between worlds, maybe throughout the help of old past Jedi like Force Ghost of Luke or Anakin or Obi-Wan, Yoda, Qui-Gon, and whatnot. Kind of guide her into discovering this, mystical way, or maybe who knows, even Ezra could show up or whatnot, and we don't know if he's alive at this point or whatever. Um, but even he could show up or whatever, and somehow he also has that connection to the world between worlds. Ahsoka is presumed to be dead because we hear her voice in that little montage, so she couldn't really come around for this. But somehow Rey, being able to access that world between worlds, and then she could kind of through those little glass mirrors or whatever, where she's seeing the events of her past and the events of the sequel trilogy, and she could kind of stop Kylo from killing Han, or she could stop Luke from going into Kylo's room at night and trying to kill him, or she could stop whatchamacallit, she could stop Leia from trying to connect to Kylo and eventually dying when Kylo was gonna turn to the light just a few seconds later anyway, when Han came back as a memory. I mean, just like That's really the only way I could think. If they were to actually go through with this, with like we said, they won't. But I just think that would be kind of a cool way to kind of have Ray access this world between worlds and kind of go through the events of 7, 8, 9 and kind of just stop the bad things from happening. And then kind of bringing the whole gang back together and kind of being able to weave this alternate universe that where everything stayed in peace. I mean, maybe she's able to stop Kylo from turning to the dark side at all. Obviously she's a big part of redeeming him in episode 9, but maybe she could stop him from turning to the dark side before he turned to the dark side through this world between worlds, and it creates kind of an alternate reality. That I think would be pretty cool, and that really wouldn't even eliminate 7, 8, 9 from canon, so they'd still be there, but that would create a whole new alternate timeline that could be done in a movie. I mean, they could do it in a trilogy. Like we said, this isn't really going to happen, but I mean, I think that would be pretty cool. Just it's kind of not really retconning and deleting it. It just kind of sets up an alternate reality where it's like, hey, this is what it would look like if everybody, was in peace and whatnot. And, Kylo didn't turn to the dark side or whatever. I mean,
Nah, I
I
could
think that would be
never
cool.
get behind that. If Ray is in anything, I can never get behind it. I don't deal with superfluous characters. I want I want my meat and veg, not fucking vegan, which is what she is. It's like, oh, I want a steak, or I love some tofu. No, I don't want no tofu Ray. I want some steak Skywalker, some Luke Skywalker, not Ray Skywalker, because that's not a thing. She's Ray Palpatine. She'll always be Ray Palpatine.
Would have
That's like if I walked into Buckingham Palace and immediately made myself part of the royal family. It ain't
been.
possible. Okay, I can marry into the royal family, which she didn't do. Ray didn't
Yeah,
turn up and
shit.
marry
Yeah.
Kylo Ren and be like, "I'm a Skywalker." No, she didn't do any of that. She just went, "I've basically murdered their entire family." Because you got to remember, Ray killed Princess Leia. Got to remember that Ray killed Leia. Always remember that Ray killed Leia. Okay, she stabbed her son, which killed Leia. So Ray killed Leia, and then she was just a massive dick towards Luke Skywalker, and then I don't even know what happened between her and Ben. And then right at the end, with the entire Skywalker family dead, she's just like, "I'm a Skywalker now." Ugh. No, you're not. Get out. Bury yourself in the sand.
With the lightsabers. All right, so yeah, I mean that's
No,
really
stab yourself with a lightsaber.
so that's really all we're going to be covering today in this episode. It's a shorter one. We're only at around less than 25 minutes here, but that's really the
Let's
only
let's
kind of news that that's coming around right now. So
let's
I mean,
just agree that it would be a really good thing if Kathleen Kennedy went
was
back to being a producer
yes, and not being a
and Jon
creative mind, and
Favreau
that
got way more creative control.
yes, that would certainly be a good thing. And then you have
But
Dave
that,
Filoni with him
yeah,
as well, working on that.
let's just not touch the movies.
Yeah.
Okay, I think the best way for the community is let's not touch the movies. Okay, let's let people like me who get really annoyed at 7, 8, and 9 be really annoyed at 7, 8, and 9, and let's leave the people who like 7, 8, and 9 who haven't watched the other movies for crying out loud. Let's let them, let bygones be bygones. To each their own. But let's take Kathleen Kennedy and go, okay, you've had your fun, you've kind of, nuked everywhere. Go back to being a producer, and then go Jon Favreau. Okay, here's your shot. Don't do a Kennedy, okay? And Jon Favreau go, yeah, okay, and then he'll probably make something really fun, or he'll crumble under the pressure, and then something will come out of it.
Well,
but I think better way to do it. Leave the movies alone. Let's not bother touching them. Let's just get Kathleen Kennedy and go.
yeah.
You've had your fun. Stop.
Yeah.
You've paused. You've managed to alienate several million people that have been around since George Lucas just wanted to make one movie. Let's not annoy them anymore, because they're pretty much the majority of our revenue stream from things like books, games, all that kind of stuff that is outside of the movies. Let's not mess with them, because we're Disney and we like money. Money. We like to sleep with money. Yes. And let's just give Jon Favreau a shot, and then everyone will be happy, because all the OG fans like Jon Favreau because he made good shit like Mandalorian and all that kind of stuff. So that's probably the best way to do it.
Yeah, I agree with that too. Just get Kathleen Kennedy out there. There's no sense in retconning, deleting anything that was already made. All right, so that kind of wraps it up for today's episode. Hopefully, there's some Star Wars. What'd you say?
I said just a quickie.
Yeah. So hopefully, There'll be some new Star Wars news or whatever that we can bring you guys next Monday. So light episode here, but we just thought we'd discuss. This was kind of a fun topic to talk about because it's very outlandish and odd, but it's certainly
Yeah.
making its way around the Star Wars universe right now. And yeah, so all right, so we'll see you guys next week.
Toodles.